Hello. Hi. I'm back. So I thought about what I could talk about, and what I came to the conclusion of what I wanted to talk about was autism and age stuff. But I'm going there. I'm going there. Because for me, I have issues with both of these things, and it's something for me to talk about. So that's how I've decided. I get on Reddit too much, and I get upset, or I get interested, or I just think about life in general, and then I think, you know what? Maybe I could talk about that. So here I am. That's what I'm gonna do. So I think that I will talk about just age right now. For me, age has been a daunting thing, like to understand. For my entire life, I always felt young. I was always treated like I was a kid. I could never figure out why or how to change that. I couldn't figure out if this was something not wrong with me, but I've read so many and heard so many people that are on the autism spectrum talk about this weird, I mean, for me, it's almost like a dysphoria. Like, I don't feel correct. I don't feel correct. Like, if I was around kids, I don't know why I would be, but if I was around younger people, anything younger than myself. But even at this point, younger people that are younger than myself might still be living older people lives that I don't understand. Now, I don't know if this is because I don't fit my age, if it's because I didn't go through the patterns of life that normal people do, regular people. If I got around people in their mid to late 20s, they actually would be more adult than I am. I do think it's harder as a guy. As a guy, we are afforded even less leeway when it comes to that. Like, if a girl likes something, a woman likes something that's girlish, she can kind of play it off as being quirky or different. If a guy likes it, like, I'm not wearing it right now, but in a lot of my videos now, I wear my pink Kirby hat. That's both girlish and childish. It's difficult because being childish is fun. Not childish in a bad way, but enjoying life in a silly, fun way is silly and fun. And we are in a constant state of being told that we're not supposed to do that. Some people just go, F it, I don't care. I watched a YouTube video actually about some guy. It took place in, I don't know, some Nordic country. And it was a guy, and he was on the spectrum, and he did what I wish I could do, which is just said, F it. And he just was himself. I would say maybe his country is better at allowing him to be that way. That's the one thing I keep every once in a while. I get into this state of like, am I autistic? Because he was such a character, and he was so okay with being a character to the point where you couldn't imagine him any other way. He wanted a girlfriend. He either wanted one or had one. If I can find it, I'll link it in my description. He just loved toys, and I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I'm not to that degree. But again, it does feel to me, maybe because I'm not to that degree, I feel even more almost dysphoric, right? Like dysphoric in my age. Like in some ways I'm an adult, and I know I'm an adult, and I remember being a kid. I have a history, I have a past. I'm not like Rumpelstiltskin, right? Or whoever that was. He fell asleep and he woke up. Like, I'm not like that. But I just don't feel, I don't feel like I fit. You know, and sometimes, in some ways, and this is where you search YouTube, you know, autism versus ADHD, autism versus CPTSD. So many autistic people get traumatized just by being alive, by existing. You know, I do. So I've thought about this. There's sort of like an idea of autism, of just being like you have more synapses and there is a lack of synaptic pruning. And so I ask myself the question, well, first of all, that can lead to a lot of trauma. That can lead to an experience that would be hard for a kid, turn it into an experience that would be traumatizing to a kid. You know, like a lot of autistic people, I was bullied, and I have other issues that I'm sure I had to deal with as a kid, and maybe they just hit me harder. Now, what if they just hit me harder because I was a kid and I had sensitivity, but I'm not autistic and I just have CPTSD, and maybe I'm stuck in an earlier age, as people with CPTSD get. They get sort of time trapped at whatever moment that they experience their trauma, right? For me, I don't think that's what it was. And that's, I've also been in therapy for pretty much way too long. And I remember, whenever I would discuss my history with therapists, they would hear about the bullying and they'd be like, oh, there's the thing. And I always just thought, no, that's not. It hit me, it hurt me, it was hard. But it wasn't extreme. It wasn't something that I felt could have caused so much harm. You know, I understand the idea that when you're a kid, it's really about how you feel in the moment rather than what the reality of how, whether you're going to get killed or something. Maybe you are fearful in the way that you might be killed or something. I don't know. That's kind of getting away from what I was talking about. It's funny that I have the Kirby hat, because the only Kirby I've ever played was on Super Smash Brothers. That's it. I think I played like a couple Kirby levels one time. I just think the character's cute and fun and cool and stuff. And but I like playing. I like playing, and even there's going to be an art video playing. I don't know what video, but that's part of creating art. For me anyways, part of creating art is play. You have to be able to be creative. You have to be able to enjoy yourself and do new things and create, and part of creating is playing. And so there's good aspects of having your kid available to you. It's difficult when you're in a culture, which is pretty much every culture probably. I mean, this is a worldwide thing, is if you're not, acting your age. It's interesting we use that word acting, right? You don't act your age. You're immature. In my way, I was never immature, but I was lacking. I mean, I think this could maybe even be connected with the sense that a lot of autistic people have, that they are naive, that they're easily fooled or manipulated in the way that a kid might be, more easily trusting. I didn't believe that I was so trusting, but I think that in a way I just was so isolated that I kind of convinced myself that like I'm someone that's very cynical and stuff like that. I get around people and all of a sudden people are being jerks or talking behind people's backs, or just being manipulative. But to me I just was like, what's the point of this? What do you get out of this? And I think to them that looks very much like being naive. But even to me, I think it kind of was. I think it's hard for me to discern, like, they obviously are playing a different game than I'm playing. And I became aware of that, but just kept looking at the game they were playing and just kept thinking, what a fucking stupid game. What a dumb game that these idiots are playing. That they're all doing these manipulative, weird game of, you would think that they're playing Game of Thrones. Even with Game of Thrones, they could have all just got along. They could have just been like, hey guys, let's just chill. Let's just have fun. Let's be happy. So, I mean, that looks very naive or innocent to an outside observer. Like, oh, you don't know how the world works. And, man, it's like a part of me goes, well, I know how the world works. I just think it's stupid. Again, I'm drifting away from the age thing, but I do think these things are connected. I mean, everything is connected. But for me, there's another problem with the age thing. This feeling of like, I don't trust that I can take care of myself. Of course, as a guy, again, I'm sorry to be like, oh, it's harder for guys. But as a guy, in most cultures, it really pretty much is the norm that the guy is the one taking care financially of himself, of someone else, or at least being able to step up, So I've always had this feeling, and a correct feeling, that I'm just not capable. There's quite a few dudes that if you're a girl and you're not capable, you might be able to find a guy that's like, hey, or as long as you just exist in my life. There are guys that actually kind of like taking care of some women. Although that sets up a bad dynamic. What does an adult, what does an adult mean? What does being an adult mean? It is somewhat a rare thing in our world, in modern world, that we're supposed to take care of ourselves. We're supposed to be these independent, one-person, functional things. And that's such a new idea. And yet, in America, at least, definitely in America, but in a lot of places, you are a failure. You're a failure as a person if you can't take care of yourself. I do envy very much the autistic people that are just fine with this aspect of themselves, because I've never been. I've always been very aware of how much I'm looked down on. I wonder if maybe I had a more masculine face, a taller body, a bigger body, if I looked more masculine or whatever, brutish, big, I wonder if maybe I wouldn't have as much of a problem. Because for me, it has been also that I've been looked down on so much, and I've been dismissed so much. That kind of gets into a little bit of the gender stuff. My inability to just exist in a way that is very typical in a gender conforming way, masculine way. And then the age and the being young. I mean, man or girl or whatever. You, they, them. You, y'all. You guys. Y'all peoples. I don't know what I was saying. I mean, when I think about the synapses, the pruning, the lack of neuropruning, these kind of things, how much gender, even age, is a performance. Maybe. I think gender is more of a performance than age. And yet, one of the reasons that in the past people would love to have kids, to make kids, to have little babies and toddlers and 7-year-olds and whatever around, was the fact that they get to almost relive their youth, their childhood. They get to, it becomes socially acceptable to once again go see the Disney movie. And of course, I think adults now, more than in the past, are way, they'll go see the Pixar movie, the Disney movie, but I still think that there's still a lot of people that they're happy. They're like, they get excited. Oh, good. I have a kid. I can have an excuse to get down and play a little bit, and so it kind of shows you how performative, but at the same time, they don't know. They don't know that they're performing. I can get around regular people and bring this up. We're all performing. You're performing right now. You know that, right? They have no idea. I wonder about the synaptic pruning. Perhaps, this is going to get existential, maybe. If that's the right word. Every day or every month, whatever, as time goes, we create ourselves and we recreate ourselves. Now, because it's not so wild, you wake up tomorrow, you're going to be a new person, but it's going to be like a tree, watching a tree grow. That you don't notice. It's changing, it's growing, but you're not noticing because we can't see that. We have to take a time-lapse video before we can really see the movement and whatever. Anyways. But we are creating ourselves and recreating ourselves, and when we're growing up as kids, we are creating the person that we will be in our adult form. And I wonder if the synaptic pruning happened correctly, if that's the right word to say. Because maybe there's nothing wrong with the synaptic pruning being incorrect. Maybe there's a functionality in some autistic people, right? Especially, don't know if this is correct to say, but high-functioning autistic people, right? There's functionality there in having somebody that's overly sensitive, that's overly aware, maybe with a higher IQ, maybe even maybe that's one of the things that pushes societies and groups and stuff forward. Maybe. But with this lack of synaptic pruning, maybe we are less adaptable, because part of growing up is adapting to what we must be as adults. I don't know. Is this making sense? When you have normal pruning, and when you don't have so many synapses reaching out, and you can focus on, one thing or a couple things or whatever, and you can learn and grow and mature in the, correct, proper time frame and everything that is at the same time frame as your peers. And you're you're flowing through life and everything, and you're not, everyone can make up these ideas of like, well, at certain ages you should have certain things done, and we get stuck there with those ideas. But those ideas are there because of how many people are flowing in the same way. And when you're not in that same flow, when you're in a different flow, it just puts a problem with the entire thing. Like your entire life, your entire way of thinking, your entire way of existing becomes confusing. I mean, I think that maybe that's where what I keep calling dysphoria, maybe that's part of where it comes from. I have a dysphoria in life in general, of just a feeling of being out of place. And how could you not? If everybody is flowing together and you're like, you're all over the place, or just you're a couple cycles behind or a couple cycles in forward, how can you not feel separate and confused and kind of alone? With that said, I had a thought real quick, and oh my God, did I lose it? Oh, I thought about the truth that I've heard from so many autistic people, and I think it was a little bit true. It's a little bit true of myself as well, which was this dysphoric feeling of when you were a kid. There's a lot of autistic people that feel like they connected more with the adults, and then as an adult you connect more with the younger people, and so you're never really in the correct space, you're never in the correct body, you're never in the correct form, you're never in the correct world. And so this is sort of like a separate part of this age issue that I haven't really talked about. And I don't know what much to say I, it could be similar to that, like, inability to flow. There is, one thing I get a little bit annoyed sometimes with, especially the subreddit Asperger's subreddit, because they all think they're so logical. Meanwhile, like half of the posts there are them complaining and being emotional and being like, I don't get these neurotypicals, or I don't get them, and so it's like, you're displaying emotion right now. You know that, right? Your feelings of anger, your feelings of sadness, these are emotions too. You just don't, in the moment next to people, you don't have that ability to, I don't know. I'm still kind of figuring out cognitive empathy and other empathy. And so I think that a lot of people feel like what they were doing when they were younger, and I can see this with myself as well, was this feeling of, because we're speaking the language that we're speaking very formal, very rigid, and we're almost, I think there's a disconnection with our bodies that we often have, that can, along with these other things, create a sense that we're older, or a sense that we're uptight, or a sense that we're, and sometimes we are, but for me, I never was uptight, except, excuse me, for me it's always been difficult. I didn't see myself as uptight. I was always shocked by hearing what other people saw when they saw me, whether they saw me as a nerdy guy, or and that's how I would be seen, though, and I never understood it. I think that for me, I related to adults. I do think that I was a bit more intelligent. I think there is I think that, see, I'm getting annoyed with the Asperger's people, because sometimes I feel this way. Not that I was logical, not that I was so smart, but there's almost like a way that you have to, because you're so stuck outside of the normal peer group, you're trapped in this state of like having to logic everything out, because it doesn't come naturally to you. So you have to really think hard. And for guys, I think that turns into, I'm so logical, I'm so smart, I'm smarter than the other people. It becomes there's a lot of ego protection that I think a lot of autistic people have, that are, high functioning Asperger's, whatever you want to use. I don't cry about the Asperger's term, but I'm sorry that he was a Nazi. That really sucks. But I don't care. It's not a big deal. Sorry, that was aggressive. I don't care. But I think for women it ends up looking like a high masking. For me, it was like a mixture of both. I knew that I was intelligent. I knew that I was aware, and it was also I was almost kind of harmed by how aware I was, how overly analyzing I was, and I was constantly stuck in a state of, I know that I'm smart, I'm getting things, I'm smart. Well, I actually thought that I was stupid when I was in, middle school and high school. Even though I was making good grades, I just was so aware that I didn't know what was going on. And I do think that when I look back, I think it was like one of those cases of, you're smart enough to know that you're not smart. But I would look at other students, and I would be shocked. I'd be like, these people don't know what the hell's going on. These people are idiots. While I at the same time, I'd be looking at them going, but how are they doing this better than me? Like, how are they doing this? And it's something that I still struggle with. I overthink a lot of things, and when I'm in the world and when I see people, I have this gut reaction of envy, a little bit of hate, from the envy, but also just a simultaneous, like, looking at them and just, like, pitying them, because they almost seem like they're less conscious of themselves and of other people. Like, they're playing a game, and they're playing a game that I'm not playing, and they're playing much better than me. But at the same time, if I ever look at them and go, you're playing a game, and you know you're playing a game, right? They would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? Again, I'm getting away from the topic of age. It's a frustrating experience. This feeling of never being right, or too old, too young. An adult trapped in a younger person's body, enjoying being younger, looking younger, but hating looking younger, hating that you appear much younger than you are to a lot of people, enjoying that you can enjoy so easily things that neurotypical adults seem to like have lost, like simultaneously feeling uncomfortable with the fact, simultaneously feeling uncomfortable with the fact that you are so comfortable. Like, you're uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable that I'm so comfortable with being, I don't know, so young, or so out of the way that I'm supposed to be. Hating that I'm looked down on, but simultaneously looking down on others for not having my abilities to exist in the way that I do, in the same way that I would, but feeling dysphoric about existing in this weird state that doesn't match anybody. And okay, I guess that's where I'll end it. I hope I said something somewhat interesting or smart or something, and I hope that this microphone worked. I'm always going to be worried about it now, and yeah, I guess that's it. Bye, everybody. Bye.